Ladies and gentlemen, in a world full of noise, distractions, and constant comparisons, one of the most powerful things you can ever do for yourself is to focus inward and stay silent. Most people waste their energy chasing validation, arguing with critics, or trying to prove their worth to those who don't even care. But life begins to transform when you stop explaining yourself to everyone, when you stop chasing the opinions of others, and when you quietly direct all that energy toward your own growth. Silence is not weakness. Silence is strength. It is the space where clarity is born, where vision becomes sharper, and where focus is refined. When you stop speaking about every plan, every dream, and every move you're making, you remove the unnecessary pressure of outside voices. People may doubt you, underestimate you, or even laugh at you, but silence gives you the power to surprise them with results instead of empty words. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean being selfish. It means understanding that your greatest responsibility is your own growth. Too often, we are caught up in comparing our journey to others, who's ahead, who's doing better, who's getting recognized. But comparison is the thief of joy. When you channel that same energy into improving your skills, your discipline, and your mindset, you begin to separate yourself from the noise. Suddenly, opportunities appear. Progress becomes visible. And the very people who once doubted you start asking how you did it. The truth is, you don't have to announce your grind. You don't have to broadcast every step. Your success will speak louder than your words ever could. The world pays attention when results show up, not when excuses or promises are made. That's why the greatest transformations happen in silence. The seed grows underground before the world sees the tree. The caterpillar transforms in the cocoon before it becomes a butterfly. And you too must embrace that silent season of growth. Focus on your health. Focus on your mind. Focus on your habits. Focus on building discipline. Learn in silence, work in silence, and heal in silence. Don't waste time proving people wrong. Spend time proving yourself right. Because when you focus on yourself, you begin to glow differently. Your energy shifts. Your presence is stronger. People feel it without you ever having to say a word. So stay silent, not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to know that real power is built quietly. Stay silent because your energy belongs in action, not in argument. And stay silent because the most beautiful revenge against doubt, negativity, and criticism is undeniable success. Silence protects your energy in ways that many people fail to recognize, because in a world where everyone is constantly speaking, posting, and broadcasting every move, choosing to remain quiet feels unnatural, almost rebellious, but it is one of the greatest strengths a person can develop. Every time you speak about your plans too soon, you open a doorway for opinions, doubts, and criticisms to enter, and those opinions are rarely neutral. Some people may genuinely encourage you, but many others may sow seeds of doubt, and the weight of those words begins to interfere with your clarity. Silence builds a shield between your inner world and the outside noise. It preserves your focus so that your energy is spent on doing rather than explaining. Words often demand energy to defend, clarify, and justify, while silence demands only discipline and patience, which in return keeps your energy intact and directed toward growth. Protecting your energy through silence also keeps you from becoming reactive. When you talk too much, you give people the tools to trigger you, manipulate you, or discourage you. Silence gives you control because it leaves others wondering instead of knowing. This control creates peace, and peace is the most fertile ground for progress. Imagine a seed planted in the ground. If it were constantly exposed, dug up, and discussed, it would never have the chance to take root. In the same way, your dreams need silence to grow beneath the surface until they are strong enough to be revealed. Your energy is like water to that seed, and silence prevents it from leaking away into meaningless conversations or wasted arguments. Another way silence protects your energy is by removing the burden of external validation. When you talk about what you are doing, you unconsciously begin to expect praise or acknowledgement. If people respond with indifference, criticism, or skepticism, you may feel discouraged, and that emotional drain steals your drive. Silence breaks that cycle. When you keep things to yourself, you are free from dependence on external reactions. Your motivation becomes internal, fueled by your vision rather than the applause or approval of others. This independence of spirit builds resilience. because your progress is no longer tied to anyone else's perception of you. You conserve the emotional energy that would have been wasted on people's opinions and redirect it into building yourself stronger. Silence also creates a mysterious aura around you. When people cannot predict your next move, they cannot interfere with it. They cannot sabotage what they don't know, and they cannot discourage what they don't see. This invisible protection keeps your path clear. Many times, obstacles in life do not appear on their own. They are created by the influence of people around you. By speaking too soon, you open yourself up to envy, jealousy, and opposition. By staying silent, you eliminate unnecessary resistance and allow yourself to walk with less friction. This doesn't mean you hide forever, but it means you reveal things only when they are ready, only when they are solid enough to stand on their own without being shaken by outside forces. Finally, silence protects your mental energy by reducing clutter. Every conversation you don't engage in, every unnecessary debate you avoid, and every explanation you withhold saves mental bandwidth. That extra energy can be redirected into creativity, learning, practicing, and strategizing. Silence is not emptiness. It is space. And that space was what allows you to think clearly and deeply. It keeps you from burning out on shallow exchanges and gives you the strength to work on the deeper, more meaningful tasks that actually move your life forward. Silence is therefore not passive. It is active protection of your focus, your clarity, and your drive, ensuring that your energy is preserved for what truly matters rather than being scattered on what doesn't. When you stop comparing yourself to others and direct your energy inward, your personal growth accelerates in ways that are both profound and lasting, because comparison is one of the greatest thieves of progress. Every moment spent looking at someone else's journey is a moment taken away from building your own. The world conditions us to measure ourselves against peers, coworkers, or even strangers online, creating an endless cycle of feeling inadequate, envious, or behind. This habit drains energy that could otherwise be poured into learning, improving, and developing your own skills. By focusing inward, you cut off the fuel to this destructive cycle and turn your attention toward what you can actually control, which is yourself. That shift alone begins to multiply your growth because it keeps your energy concentrated rather than scattered. Growth accelerates when you begin to see yourself as your only competition. Instead of asking, am I doing better than them? You start asking, am I doing better than who I was yesterday? This mindset creates a more sustainable and empowering drive. You are no longer bound to external standards that constantly change. Instead, you anchor yourself in a personal standard that grows with you. When you consistently strive to outdo your past self, even by small margins, the compounding effect over time becomes extraordinary. Personal records, new habits, and incremental improvements start stacking up quietly until the person you are today looks completely different from who you were a year ago. Another reason inward focus accelerates growth is because it allows you to identify and correct your weaknesses without judgment. When you are focused outward, you may either ignore your flaws to maintain appearances or over-criticize yourself because you feel you don't measure up to others. But when you shift your focus inward, self-awareness becomes a tool for growth rather than self-punishment. You are able to observe your habits, recognize unproductive patterns, and adjust without the heavy burden of comparison. This creates an environment where growth is continuous because self-improvement becomes a personal mission, not a reaction to external pressure. Directing your energy inward also makes your learning more efficient. Instead of wasting time copying what others are doing, you begin to design your own path based on your strengths, interests, and goals. This makes your journey unique and authentic, which is far more sustainable than trying to replicate someone else's success. You may admire others and even learn from them, but the main drive comes from understanding yourself deeply. This type of focus ensures that the time you invest produces maximum return because it is aligned with your own growth trajectory rather than diluted across comparisons and distractions. Inward focus strengthens discipline as well. When you are no longer chasing external validation, your motivation becomes intrinsic. You do the work because it aligns with your vision, not because you want someone else to notice. This shift creates a powerful momentum that accelerates growth because you no longer stop when applause fades or when recognition doesn't arrive. Your discipline carries you forward even in silence, and the consistency that comes from discipline eventually produces results that speak louder than any announcement could. Perhaps one of the most overlooked aspects of focusing inward is how it changes your emotional well-being. Constant comparison often breeds anxiety, frustration, or a feeling of being left behind. These emotions consume mental energy that could otherwise fuel your growth. When you stop comparing and look inward, you reclaim peace. Peace creates clarity, and clarity makes it easier to set priorities and take deliberate action. Without the noise of comparison clouding your judgment, your decisions become sharper and your progress becomes more intentional. Emotional stability combined with focused action accelerates growth at a pace that cannot be achieved when your mind is constantly distracted by the successes or failures of others. Over time, this inward focus begins to compound. Small improvements add up, lessons accumulate, and resilience deepens. You become more confident in your own lane because you are no longer trying to merge into someone else's. Each step you take builds momentum, and that momentum turns into acceleration. The more you direct energy toward your own growth instead of wasting it in comparisons, the faster you rise, not because you are racing against others, but because you are fully invested in the one person you have complete control over, yourself. Success is more powerful when it is shown through results rather than spoken about through words, because words can be empty, exaggerated, or even forgotten, but results are undeniable and leave a lasting impression. When you talk too much about what you are going to do, you create expectations, and often those expectations drain the very energy you need to fulfill your goals. You may feel a temporary sense of accomplishment just by announcing your plans, but that feeling fades quickly, and in many cases, it can reduce your motivation to act. On the other hand, when you remain quiet and let your actions lead the way, the satisfaction comes not from talking, but from seeing tangible progress. People respect what you prove, not what you promise. And this principle applies across every aspect of life, from personal growth to business, relationships, and career. When actions speak louder than words, credibility is built naturally. You don't have to demand trust or force people to believe in you. Your results will do the speaking. This credibility becomes a form of currency that can open doors, attract opportunities, and build influence far more effectively than boasting ever could. Think about leaders, entrepreneurs, or athletes who inspire others. They are remembered not because they talked about what they could do, but because they showed the world what was possible through performance. Their results speak across generations long after their words have been forgotten. This is the essence of power in silence and action. Living by results instead of words also creates resilience, because when you stop seeking validation through speech, you free yourself from the fear of judgment. You no longer worry about whether people believe you or support you, because you know that results cannot be argued with. This mindset gives you the freedom to focus on execution without the distraction of constantly proving yourself verbally. Results are objective. They stand firm even in the face of doubt. The very people who criticize or underestimate you will eventually have no choice but to acknowledge your achievements when they see them materialize. Another important aspect of letting results speak is that it aligns you with discipline. Talking about goals is easy, but working quietly toward them requires sacrifice, patience, and consistency. This discipline builds character, and that character creates a foundation for long-term success. Every day that you choose to act instead of announce, you reinforce habits that compound over time. You may not see the outcome immediately, but eventually the quiet effort turns into visible success. When that moment comes, you don't need explains, because the results themselves are evidence of your journey, your struggles, and your persistence. When you focus on results over words, you also begin to separate yourself from the crowd. Most people are quick to talk and slow to act. So when you reverse that pattern, you stand out without even trying. Your silence becomes intriguing, and your results make people curious. They want to know how you did it, but they didn't see the grind because you were too focused on the work to broadcast every step. This contrast sets you apart as someone who doesn't just dream but executes. And in a world full of noise, execution is rare and therefore highly respected. Results also create a ripple effect that words alone cannot achieve. When people witness your transformation, your growth, or your achievements, they are inspired in ways that no speech or explanation could accomplish. They see proof that change is possible, that discipline pays off, and that dreams can be turned into reality. This impact extends beyond you, touching lives around you and motivating others to shift from talking to doing. Your life becomes a testimony that words could never fully capture. Most importantly, results build a quiet confidence within yourself. When you see evidence of your own effort paying off, you no longer need external validation to feel accomplished. Each milestone reached reinforces the belief that you are capable, and that belief strengthens your courage to tackle bigger challenges. This self-trust becomes a powerful engine that drives you further, and it grows with every result you produce. Words may give temporary confidence, but results give lasting confidence because they are rooted in reality, not in imagination. By focusing on your own habits, routines, and mindset without external noise, you create a stronger and more disciplined version of yourself, because discipline is not built in loud declarations, but in the quiet, consistent actions that no one sees. Habits shape identity, and routines give structure to growth. But when you are distracted by the chatter of others or by the constant comparison of your journey to someone else's, those habits and routines become unstable. When you block out the noise and tune into your own process, you give yourself the chance to build discipline layer by layer until it becomes a part of who you are rather than something you chase. Discipline is not something you borrow from motivation. It is something you carve out of repeated effort, and that carving requires silence, focus, and self-awareness. When you commit to developing discipline in silence, you begin to realize that the real transformation happens in the small moments. Waking up when you said you would, even though nobody is watching. Choosing the harder option when the easier one is available. Resisting the temptation to quit when comfort calls your name. Each of these small victories strengthens your discipline, and over time, they add up to an unshakable foundation. By avoiding the need to announce or explain your progress, you free yourself from the weight of external expectations, and this freedom allows you to focus on consistency rather than performance for others. You are not trying to impress, you are trying to improve, and that difference fuels genuine discipline. Habits built in silence are harder to break because they are not tied to validation. For example, someone who works out only to post about it may stop when the likes and comments fade. But someone who works out in silence does it because it's a part of their identity. Silence keeps your habits pure and self-driven, and this purity strengthens discipline. It teaches you that the reward is not applause, but progress itself, not recognition, but resilience. When you operate with this mindset, your discipline becomes independent of circumstances, and that independence ensures that you continue to grow even when the world is not watching or cheering. Routines are equally powerful when crafted in silence. A routine is a blueprint for discipline, but it requires commitment to follow it without distractions. When you focus on your own path, you create routines that serve your goals instead of routines that mimic what others are doing. You may choose to wake up earlier, study longer, or practice deeper, and because you are not seeking approval, you can adjust and refine those routines until they perfectly align with your vision. This personalization creates a rhythm in your life that no outside voice can disrupt, and that rhythm becomes the engine of your discipline. Over time, sticking to a routine becomes effortless, and what once felt like discipline becomes second nature. Mindset is the root of discipline, and focusing inward allows you to strengthen that root. A disciplined mindset is one that values long-term growth over short-term comfort, one that sees obstacles not as stop signs, but as opportunities to grow stronger. This mindset is cultivated in silence, in moments of reflection, and in the mental battles you win when no one else is there to applaud you. When you discipline your mind to stay focused, positive, and resilient, your habits and routines naturally fall into place. External noise often plants doubt, fear, or distraction in the mind. But by tuning it out and centering on your own thoughts, you give your mindset the space to grow resilient and unbreakable. Focusing on habits, routines, and mindset without noise also teaches you patience, which is a key component of discipline. Growth rarely happens overnight, and silence helps you embrace the slow, steady process of improvement. Without the pressure of having to show results immediately to others, you can stay patient and persistent, trusting the process rather than rushing it. Patience combined with consistency is what turns ordinary habits into extraordinary transformations. The discipline you build in this quiet space becomes a shield that protects you from quitting when things get hard, because you have trained yourself to keep going regardless of external circumstances. Ultimately, discipline created in silence becomes your greatest strength. It is not dependent on motivation, which comes and goes, nor on recognition, which can be given or withheld. It is built from within by focusing on the daily actions that align with who you want to become. The more you refine your habits, the more solid your routines become, and the stronger your mindset grows, the more disciplined you become as a person. This discipline transforms not just what you do, but who you are, creating a version of yourself that is consistent, resilient, and unstoppable. Just like seeds grow underground and caterpillars transform in cocoons, your breakthroughs often happen in silence before the world sees them, because transformation is rarely an instant event. It is a gradual process that unfolds in hidden places, away from the eyes of others. The most profound growth happens when no one is watching, when you are in the quiet hours of effort, discipline, and reflection. The seed does not sprout immediately after it is planted. It spends time in the darkness, taking root, building a foundation, and preparing for the day it will emerge into the light. In the same way, your dreams, skills, and character need time to develop beneath the surface. Silence gives them that time and space to grow strong enough to endure once they are revealed. Transformation requires protection, and silence is the shield that provides it. If a caterpillar's cocoon were broken open too soon, the butterfly inside would never be able to fly because it would not have developed the strength necessary to survive. The struggle inside the cocoon is what builds the muscles for flight. In your life, silence is your cocoon, protecting you while you struggle, learn, and strengthen yourself. By staying quiet during your season of growth, you avoid interference from others who may not understand your journey, who may discourage you, or who may sabotage your progress. Your private effort becomes your training ground, and by the time you emerge, you are already equipped to soar. The beauty of transformation in silence is that it allows you to make mistakes and correct them without the pressure of public scrutiny. Growth is never linear. It comes with failures, setbacks, and lessons that shape you into a stronger version of yourself. When you work quietly, you can stumble, adapt, and refine without the weight of judgment from others. Every misstep becomes a lesson instead of a label. This freedom accelerates your growth because you are not paralyzed by the fear of what people will think. You are simply focused on becoming better. And this focus builds resilience and wisdom that cannot be developed in the spotlight. Silence also allows your transformation to surprise others, which is a powerful effect in itself. People may underestimate you, dismiss you, or assume that you are not capable of much, but when you are quietly working behind the scenes, you are building momentum they cannot see. Then one day you reveal results that shock them. This surprise is not about proving others wrong, but about showing the undeniable evidence of your dedication. It carries more weight than any words could because it is rooted in reality. Your silent transformation creates impact precisely because it was unexpected, and the contrast between where you were and where you are now makes your progress even more inspiring. The quiet nature of transformation also teaches humility. When you are focused on the work rather than the recognition, you develop a grounded perspective on success. You realize that growth is not about showing off, but about becoming better, stronger, and wiser. This humility keeps you balanced even as you achieve more. While others chase validation through constant updates and announcements, you understand that the real reward lies in the person you become during the silent process. The humility born from this understanding ensures that your transformation is not just external, but internal, shaping your character as much as your achievements. Another powerful aspect of silent transformation is that it builds patience and trust in the process. Seeds do not rush their growth, and butterflies do not skip the struggle of the cocoon. They surrender to the natural timeline of transformation, and in doing so, they develop strength and beauty. In the same way, when you embrace silence, you learn to trust the journey. You stop demanding instant results and start appreciating the slow, steady progress that leads to lasting change. This patience keeps you consistent, and consistency is what turns potential into reality. Silent transformation is steady transformation, and steady transformation lasts. In the end, the most meaningful breakthroughs are those that emerge after seasons of quiet work, hidden struggle, and private victories. By allowing yourself the space to grow in silence, you give your transformation the roots it needs to withstand challenges and the strength it needs to thrive. When you finally step into the light, the world does not just see results, it sees the product of your discipline, patience, and resilience, all of which were forged in the quiet, unseen moments of your journey. When you focus inward and let your work speak, people will notice the change without you having to demand recognition, because true success does not require an announcement. It naturally commands attention through visible transformation and undeniable results. Many people exhaust themselves trying to be seen, constantly seeking validation and recognition from others, but that effort often dilutes the power of their progress. Real growth, when nurtured in silence and acted on consistently, carries its own voice. It shines through in your presence, your confidence, your achievements, and your energy. People are drawn to results because results are proof, and proof has a power that no words or explanations can match. When you stop chasing recognition and instead pour yourself into action, you create an energy shift that others cannot ignore. You walk differently, speak differently, and carry yourself differently. Even before your achievements become fully visible, your discipline and focus radiate outward. People may not know exactly what you are doing, but they can sense that something about you has changed. This quiet transformation builds curiosity, and curiosity draws attention more effectively than self-promotion ever could. The glow of progress cannot be hidden, and it always attracts those who are searching for the same light. Another reason success attracts attention naturally is because the world is filled with people who talk but never act. When you become the rare person who actually follows through, your results stand out against the background noise of broken promises and empty words. In a society where everyone is eager to post about plans and goals, the person who silently achieves them becomes extraordinary. Without saying a word, you separate yourself from the crowd because your actions carry weight. People notice those who do, not just those who declare. And when you consistently prove your commitment through action, you earn respect without ever asking for it. Recognition that comes from results is also more meaningful and long-lasting than recognition you demand. When you force people to notice you, their attention is shallow, fleeting, and often insincere. But when your work speaks for itself, the recognition is genuine because it is rooted in admiration of your effort and outcome. This type of recognition cannot be taken away because it is not based on persuasion or demand, but on undeniable proof. It also reaches farther than you expect, inspiring people you may never even meet. Your quiet dedication leaves a mark not only on your immediate circle, but also on anyone who encounters your story. Focusing inward also ensures that your growth is authentic and sustainable. When you seek recognition too early, you may fall into the trap of tailoring your journey to please others, losing touch with your true goals and values. But when you stay silent and consistent, your progress aligns with who you really are and what you truly want. This authenticity shines through in your results, and authenticity is magnetic. People are naturally drawn to those who are genuine because they represent strength and courage in a world full of imitation. By focusing on yourself first, you ensure that when recognition comes, it is for the real you, not a version created to gain approval. The most powerful part of letting success attract attention naturally is that it shifts your motivation from external to internal. You no longer depend on applause or acknowledgement to keep going. Instead, you build momentum from within, and that momentum becomes unstoppable. Each step forward strengthens your confidence, and each result reinforces your belief in your own potential. This self-sustained drive makes your success inevitable, and when it manifests outwardly, it carries a depth and permanence that demanded recognition could never match. People feel the difference between someone who is trying to be seen and someone who has simply become undeniable through dedication. In time, the very people who overlooked you, doubted you, or ignored you will be the ones asking how you did it. They will notice not because you shouted for their attention, but because your success grew too large, too real, and too powerful to be ignored. By staying focused on your own path and allowing your results to speak, you create a legacy that does not need explanations. It speaks on its own, louder and clearer than any words ever could, and it continues to speak long after you stop talking.